Hi everyone, welcome back to Montana's Flintlocks. My name's Marcus, and today we're going to do something a little different. I know we've been working on the Jaeger rifle there for the last little while. As I've mentioned probably in some of the other videos, I think I mentioned the flintlock pistol that I've been working on, or sorry, the black powder pistol. It's a percussion pistol. But as you can tell from some of my other older tools, whether it's my hand planes and chisels and whatnot, I do like working on and restoring some older antique tools and things like that. So recently I came across this old flintlock. Well, actually it's a Snaphaunce. So I came across this at an auction site for a really good price, and I thought, hey, why don't I pick this up and see if I can restore it, see if I can maybe even get it to fire again. So this video is going to be about me working on this Snaphaunce and hopefully successfully putting it back together and maybe even getting it to spark. We'll find out. So enjoy.
For those of you that don't know what this is a Snaphaunce, which is essentially a precursor to the flintlock that is on the Jaeger rifle that I'm currently building. So this is, from my brief sort of uneducated research, it appears to be a Snaphaunce from North African or Moroccan sort of origin. In fact, you can see here, there's even a bit of an inscription on here. So if anyone knows 19th century Arabic or whatever language that is there, then let me know or point me in the right direction. But somewhat a similar function to the other later flintlocks, but also not. So there's the cock here and the pan, which you can see up here. And then this is the battery, not the frizzen. But this thing just goes forward. It's got the, I guess, the battery spring, or the frizzen spring, I guess, the battery spring. This one still had the original, well, at least, or a very old flint and piece of leather in there. And it's actually, although it's, you know, crude, you could argue, but there, you know, someone made an effort to definitely decorate this and do some inlays throughout the piece, and of course the inscription and whatnot. Now when you go to the back, the functionality of it, you've got the cock coming through to basically a tumbler here. It's held together by a pin. And then the trigger mechanism is basically this piece, and this would be where it's released. And then there's two springs in here. One spring puts tension on the release, and then the other one is supposed to put tension on the trigger release bar itself. And then on this side, you can see here, this little part of the trigger mechanism sticks out. So it looks like on this flintlock, or the Snaphaunce I should say, things are not really in order. This bar here is actually kind of, it's frozen. It's actually wedged together here. This should actually be behind this. So when the tension's pushing this way, it is pushing this out, but just at the tension of the spring. Right now it seems to be pushed out and is actually being held in place by the release here, which is supposed to get tension from here, which you can see the spring here. So I think something happened at some point where this got wedged out, and it's putting a lot of extra pressure on here when it probably shouldn't be, because really it should only be back here. The pan cover is movable. There is a small little bar here that screws in here that just kind of goes over top of this, and it just keeps this from doing this, and it keeps it sort of so it moves back and forth in a straight line. And then underneath here there's a little piece of metal or bar that runs underneath here, kind of stays behind this and goes through to here and pushes on here. So when the cock is cocked back, this bar turns with the tumbler and moves away, which allows this to move freely. So if you were loading this, you would prime this when it's cocked, and then you could go like that, and then it would most likely make contact with this bar, obviously while it's cocked back. So as soon as the trigger goes and the cock goes forward, this bar pushes forward, it throws the pan open so the sparks can get inside. And of course the battery before that would have been up here. The flint strikes the face of this and creates the sparks. So some similar functionality. There's obviously a really heavy duty mainspring here. And then obviously the pin here and a pin here. So I thought for just a little fun side project, I'm gonna see if this thing is salvageable and if there's a way that I can take it apart, clean it up, maybe polish some of this rust, get some of this rust off without, damaging any of the patina really, but just getting some of the main rust parts off and putting it all back together and fixing this, and maybe even if it gets to that, even maybe creating a bar for this and the bar here, the bar here that goes through there. And maybe this thing can spark again. That'd be kind of cool. It's probably 150, 200 years old, this thing. So we'll see. I noticed that my mainspring vise that I have for my regular flintlocks doesn't actually work for this, because even when it's expanded to its maximum capacity, it can't take the tension off this mainspring. So I'll have to come up with some kind of a solution where maybe I can clamp it from here, or try and use something to clamp it from here just to get the tension off. I think as soon as I get the tension off the mainspring, I can take that off. This will release the tension on this tumbler. And then I can start taking the tumbler out, take the pins out, and then hopefully this trigger mechanism here can all get taken apart, cleaned, and then put back together and figure out if this is an ongoing issue or this is just something that was damaged in some use over time. And then I did notice right now the battery seems to be quite cantered off, so either there's something damaged inside here, whether this pin is bent, or maybe this somehow is bent, and even this. So really this should all be in line going forward. So yeah, stick with me and we'll see if we can take this apart. First, we're gonna take this original or old flint out. You can kind of see here, it's still a very brittle leather piece here. And then old used flint for sure. We'll keep that around. Maybe that's something we can at least have with the original. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and undo this screw and then maybe take the pan right off. It is loose right now too, so I don't know if that's something that's damaged, but there does appear to be probably a silver screw here, another decorative item on this. But if I can take this off, take the screw off, then I can take these two off. We'll use our Mr. Not Green here screwdriver. Quite a small screw, but there's still thread on there, which is good. We'll put that in this magnetic tray over there. Keep everything sorted. Okay, it is backing out. It gets loose. interesting though here, the way it's threaded out. I wonder if some of this wear here could be from that bar that was constantly going back and forth every time it's getting fired. Okay, well, tried some rust release. I actually even tried heating this and letting it cool. I've not had much luck, so I've decided I'm just going to work around it for now. I guess in the end, if I can't get this off, it does mean I won't be able to get the battery off, just because the screw is hidden in behind here. But we can get this one off. This will stop the stopper here. We'll be able to clean this all up and put this back after. So this will stop the caulk from coming down. And I think what we're going to try next is going to try and move this pin. If I can get this pin out, then I can get the whole caulk off, get the tumbler off. I can start looking at the trigger mechanism. And again, we'll maybe circle back to this, the mainspring, and see what we can do there. Well, we didn't do that on camera, but we did. We were able to tap this pin all the way out. So let's see if I can grab it here with some pliers with some protection on there, just so we're not scratching. There we go. Nice. Well, you've missed a lot of banging and crashing. So I was able to use these brass center punches or pins here, and lo and behold, off comes the tumbler. And then, there we go. There's the caulk. Off it is. So, it's a little bent. From lots of different angles, so perhaps that's why partially the geometry is off, but once this is polished up, we should be able to put this all back together. The pin would go through there with obviously the tumbler on the other side, so. Okay, lots of old corrosion on here. Make sure we don't lose any of these parts. Okay, well, now that we have the caulk, the tumbler off, these are the springs that deal with the trigger mechanism here. So we'll take these springs out. I think I can get the screw off, so yep. Okay, so put those up there. Maybe I can pop that pin out there. Let's see see if that'll gain us access to remove this portion here. And then we'll look more closely at that. Take this off. There we go. So put the pin back in. And then we'll put that over there. Lots of rust and corrosion and years worth of gunk. All right, after a lot of work, we made some success. Now I'll just put a caveat on this. I would never do something like this with a really nice piece, but this thing was obviously nearing its end of life. So as you can tell, this screw has been worked over pretty good. Granted, it was quite heavily marred up even initially, but obviously it's a little bit worse now. But the good news is it didn't break off, and I just paused it here, but it is finally reversing itself out. So I think what happened is probably the front of this screw here had maybe not been peened over, but it was sticking out enough that it had just created a bit of a lip at the front of the screw. So when the threads tried to reverse, basically it almost acted as a stopper. So the screw itself was loose, and I just was able to move it forward and backwards, and then just try to push back a bit of that edge that was sticking out. And then now we are finally at a point where this thing is backing out. So mainspring is off. So the good news is I can access the front area here where the battery is and hopefully remove all this. So then I'll have been able to strip the entire thing down. So with that, I guess here's our screw. With that, it means I'll be able to give everything a really good clean. Definitely not, you can tell when things are handmade, when the threads are not perfectly machined and not perfectly the same everywhere. So all right, it's time to do some cleaning. We'll make one point here. I essentially can't get these screws off, so unfortunately all that work for kind of nothing in the end. The reality is they're basically peened over on this side. Either that's just from wear or something, but this clearly was not meant to be dismantled and cleaned on a regular basis by the looks of it, because with these screws sort of peened over on this side, there's essentially no way to reverse the screws out because the screw is just too flattened on this end. So unfortunately, I'll just end up stripping these screws completely out. So yeah, so I'm just gonna try and clean all this rust off. This will be a challenging area here, but we'll see how it goes.
Okay. So this is the result of, I guess, some of my hard work. So obviously at the start of the video, you saw me working hard to try to disassemble this old Snaphaunce. What's not on video is me spending probably a couple hours polishing everything with a really gentle polish, just to try to remove the surface rust in a lot of spots. So I even had to use a small pick to try to get most of the rust off. But what it's left me with is I think a Snaphaunce that I should be able to put back together. So maybe we'll just kind of go through it. I was never able to take this portion of the Snaphaunce apart, where the battery is. Unfortunately, looks like these screws are kind of peened over, so any attempts to try to remove these screws essentially got nowhere. But this has all been mostly removed. This I didn't remove either, but I've spent a good amount of time cleaning it. And here's the cock. It's in pretty good shape now. This all works. And this is the post that goes inside. Here we have the pan cover. Still working with the screw. And this piece goes on the front with the screw as well. This will stop the cock from, I guess, going further down, so it's kind of a stopper, I guess you could say. Here's the pan. Cleaned up pretty good, along with the screw there. And then the mainspring, which took a lot of work to remove, but I think I kind of figured out why. It looks like the screw is mostly stripped off, so what probably happened is at some point somebody realized it wasn't going to hold in place, so it's probably why the back was peened over a bit, just so that it wouldn't come out. And here's the, I guess you could call this the sear, and the springs associated with the pin, and then the tumbler, along with the, I guess, the pin or the slot. It fits through here to hold it in place. And then, yeah, the original flint. So the rest of this video will be me just putting it back together. As you can tell, it's quite worn here, so the way this was wearing was certainly used a lot. So what we'll probably do first, see if we can put the cock in and the stopper here, I guess. Looks about right. And I've gone and waxed every part of the Snaphaunce. So I really like using beeswax. I find that works really well. And it's natural, and it stops the rust from forming on all my metal tools. So all my tools that I've gone and restored, I've coat them with a thin layer of beeswax after that I just rub on. And I find it's more effective than than using oil, because oil ends up either drying up or it attracts dust and sawdust or whatever's in the air, and it just really gets this gummy muck on the metal. But the beeswax just creates this kind of nice satin kind of touch to it. So yeah. So there you go. In the rest position, this would sit here like that. Let's see if we can tap this back in. Okay. And then our 2 springs. Okay. So see if we can Okay. Pretty loose. Pretty loose. but it does move. Okay, well, it's stable now. I'll put in the pan cover here. So, pan cover open, pan cover closed. Okay, well, I managed to get this mainspring on. Boy, was it was difficult. As you can tell, this is really thick, like compared to, compared to the mainspring on the Jaeger. Just, yeah, significantly over strength. So we can see the springs. One's pushing down on this. This is pushing up on that. And there's the horizontal sear just waiting. So realistically, when this gets fully caulked, we would have that lock in. Yeah. Guess this is just going to be a wall hanger, as they say. But still like it. Either way, it should be preserved for many more years to come. Most of that surface rust gone, and now the beeswax on there. Let's put this original piece of leather back in. There you go. Original Snaphaunce. Just missing the bar here. And the little tensioners. Piece of metal here to keep this from moving nice and straight. But otherwise, it's got all the parts and pieces. So there you have it. Hope you enjoyed the video.